Hey everyone, it's Millie.
It's Gabby.
And welcome back to another week of Change by Degrees. And I have my intro this week.
I wasn't going to say anything because you said you had an intro, so I wasn't going to interrupt you as I'm interrupting you.
Okay, good job. So before we start this true crime episode, which is a little bit different and I'm really excited to talk about it, I wanted to talk about events that occurred the last time we recorded. I still hold
which is like
Gary
true
responsible.
crime.
Which is like, actually this is the perfect, wow. So poetic. This is the perfect intro to this because we finished wrapping up recording our last episode.
Wait, you said you hold me responsible? This isn't my fault.
I still blame you.
It's not my fault.
I still blame you.
Well.
And there's many steps to this story. So you can tell your perspective. But let me
I don't
begin.
have a perspective. It's not my fault.
You do. It's called not seeing what is missing.
I think that's your story.
Because you're okay. So basically we finished recording. I clean up and I have to walk all the way back to like the main parking lot because I can't go into the parking garage. So it's quite a ways, but Gabby follows me for half of it. This is just so messed up. I'm thinking back and I'm getting so angry. So I go down the elevator, I go across out the main entrance, I get into my car. I was gonna order some food, which is right across the street in Stonebridge. Now, the amount of time that passed is debatable. Gabby says, what'd you say?
It was like 20 minutes.
That was, okay, 20 minutes. That's not bad. You were like 30, 45. I don't think so.
No. I was saying it was like 20 minutes.
Okay. And so I drive over to Stonebridge to go pick up this food. I get out of my car and guess what's missing? Now, this is very typical of me because I always lose crap. But today, or then, it was my wallet. I panic. I call Gabrielle because I feel like I left it in the apartment. But did I?
No.
Where did you look? Let's
Everywhere.
go back because I feel like someone
Everywhere. I looked everywhere. What do you mean, where did I look?
Where'd you look?
Everywhere.
So basically, I feel like I've lost his wallet. I drive back and I look everywhere. Because
I looked everywhere in the apartment. I went out in the hallway all the way to where I followed you. It was not there. That's when I met you downstairs.
Right. And then we both look and I'm already having like a crap day. And it has everything in it. And here's the thing. Here's the problem. This is my mistake, okay? My mistake is that it has credit cards. It had like a BJ's membership card, my insurance card, and I forgot I had my insurance card in there. And what else was in there?
Your church card.
Oh, and my church key. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that. And it had probably like $250 worth of cash. Did you laugh a little bit?
No, that was the
because I'm like, yeah,
I didn't laugh. I didn't.
But that is the mistake, and not all of it fit inside of my wallet. So there was like $100 bill on the outside, very easily seen from wherever I dropped this wallet. So yes, it was stolen, and I had bid farewell. Like I went through the process of grief, and a lot of people, including your dad, told me it's gonna come back.
I didn't tell you that.
It's gonna come back.
I thought that thing was gone.
Gone. Yeah, she did. From
Because it was
day one.
within 20 minutes. That thing was wherever you dropped it in the hallway, in the parking lot. I don't know where.
I went up to the front
gone.
desk and I was like, "Hey, I lost my wallet. This is my name, my number. Call me if you see it." Because I'm like a decent person.
Usually we'll turn it in.
We'll turn
I feel
it
like
in.
Most people, like if I found a wallet, I'm like, I'm gonna turn. Of course, I'm gonna turn it in. But maybe we're just too
Even
good
if here's
of
the
people.
thing. Here's the thing. Well, that and also I said, if you want to take the cash as your own payment and return it, but do it the same day, like when you find it. You know what I mean? Because I had bid farewell. I ordered, like, blocked my credit cards, ordered new ones. My driver's license. That I had to go to the DMV and order a new one and get like a temporary one printed out. Like all the things. I've checked all the boxes. And Saturday night.
This is 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, 2 days ago, I get a call from my front gate because I lived in a gated community.
She was in the elite gated community.
Okay. Right across the street from you. There's no difference.
But you're on the elite side of Route 1.
It's a gated community.
Yeah, it's gated.
And I get a call at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, mind you. Like I'm about to go Betty bye-bye. And this person at the front gate is saying, "Hey, someone just dropped off your wallet. Your name's Millicent Vasquez, right?" And I was like...
Should have been like, no, bye. I don't want to know whatever you're going to tell me.
But I thought, man, someone had to change your heart and like brought back this wallet a week and a half later. And I was already a little bit angry regardless because it's been 2 weeks. Like I have my new cards. I've changed over everything. So I'm like, let me see. And I text Gabby and I was like, guess what? And you didn't guess it. You weren't sure.
I was not. I didn't know what, because at 11 p.m. on a Saturday, what news could you possibly have gotten that you were like, in all caps, guess what happened?
I was
And I was
livid.
like, I literally texted her back and I was like, is this something I really want to know right now on a Saturday at 11 p.m. when we got to get up at like 4:30 tomorrow? Or is this something that can just not be told to me right now?
No, it had to be. You just had to know. I drive up, and lo and behold, it is my wallet without the cash.
Oh yeah, the cash was gone. The cash been gone.
But here's the thing, that when we're talking about true crime, we're gonna warm up our investigation skills.
You're a true crime. Now you are a victim of.
I am a victim of true crime, because does this make sense though? There's people who have these different hypotheses. Okay, your mom thinks this is the newest hypothesis, that whoever took it tried to leave it, but I'm like, they would have tossed it in the trash. That's the whole of that argument.
Whoever took the cash 2 weeks ago out, threw it somewhere, and then someone on Saturday found it and then returned it
at 11 p.m. and returned it.
Yeah, because for all they know, you just lost the wallet
like the day of.
Yeah.
Right. But that makes no sense to me, because I'm like, if you had stole the money, okay, enjoy your weekend, but you would have like tossed it in the trash. Unless you're like that dumb to like then drop it off in the floor again. Like, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me.
I was like, where would it have like been for 2 weeks that someone would have found it? Yeah, it didn't. I was
I mean, there's like a 1% chance. Okay, that's like the bottom of the list. I'm so sorry. But then the thing is, like, if you really think about what's most likely, it makes me so angry, and I still don't understand, because if this person must have found that wallet within 20 minutes of me losing it.
Yes, 100%. Because when you called me, it was about 20 minutes later, and I looked at my apartment, wasn't here, so I went down the hall, and it was only had like 20 minutes had passed. That's it.
So an immediate like, got it.
Yep.
And then a week and a half later, you must have tried the cards and realized they're dead. And anything else, you took the cash. But why at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, you said, let me do a good thing. They saw my HOA like ID association card. Yep. I think that's how they like put together two and two. That I live there. Drove over to drop off the wallet that is now like a paperweight. Because there's nothing in the wallet that has value anymore. Like, can you explain that?
No, because I don't
like when you think about the audacity, like, is it because like
of what happened? Here's my thing. If it's the same people who took the wallet and then returned it, then I'm like, you have like
the audacity.
Yeah, like to return it 2 weeks later, that's wild.
And be like, I did the good thing.
Like, I couldn't even wrap my mind around that. Like when you told me like, oh yeah, here's it. I was like, what? No. Like I can't even wrap that.
If you want to do that, it would have made sense if like you didn't leave your name off to the gate. You just want to drop it off, and you drop it off whole with the cards and with the cash. But the fact that you'll be like, yeah, I take this money and there you go, I did a good thing. 2 weeks later blows my mind. Like, I do not understand.
Some people just like really don't care.
Like I thought.
That's what I told you. I was like, dude,
that's
cold.
Your dad was like, you know what? That's case closed. Like, you got a bag. There's some closure. And I'm like, there's no closure. That,
but
like,
at least
blew
you
it
know
right
where
up.
it's not where it's
I know where it's at. I mean, it was a little bit violated because like it was all like all my cards were like in a different place.
Well, yes, your wallet was gone through. Yes. Okay. Did you expect the criminals to be like, you know what? Let's not touch this girl's wallet. We'll take her money, but her cards we're gonna keep in their proper place.
Nah, they try this stuff out. But I feel like the case got like blown back open. I had made my peace, and then I got excited that maybe they had a change of heart. But my mom was also like, you should have been expected that cash to be gone. Well, like they made their own payment. Yeah. Which honestly, okay, you know what? Now I have 2 IDs. Now I'm gonna be the true crime specialist, and I'm gonna go do some stuff.
There you go. Now you can have one ID for one thing and the other ID for something else. For when you feel like doing something bad.
Just know that the apartment complex that Gabby lives in, gotta keep your eyes peeled. She swears it's building. I mean, that makes no sense, dude.
No, because it's building.
It could have been lost.
No, it wasn't because it wasn't lost because there's 2 buildings. I live in the second building, and then you have to walk through the parking garage to connect to the first building, which is how you get to the parking lot. And she didn't lose it in my building, the second building. She lost it in the first building. So those are the first building people that stole your wallet. But the second building people where I live is like, they're cool. I think. I don't really talk to anybody.
I swear, because some.
It's fine. It's good.
I mean, yeah, I'm okay.
Well, you seem okay. So you seem really well adjusted about this whole thing.
I was better, and then that happened. But it's okay. We'll go through the process of grieving again and be like, yeah. I will never be able to understand though.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Like really, like let's one more time.
Okay.
I lost it.
Yes.
Someone picked it up immediately.
Yes.
And like a whole 2 weeks later at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, decides to return the wallet with no cash.
Yep.
Probably thinking to themselves, I did a good thing.
Probably. Or, you know what? At least they'll get the... I mean, but that's so stupid because, like, obviously 2 weeks later, none of the cards are going to work. And they know that because they probably tried them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I don't know what their thought process was. Maybe they thought it was, like, a bad omen to keep it. And they were just like, we need to get rid of it. Yeah.
I hope you feel good.
Yeah. Whoever stole...
I could be more upset, but I'm just like,
whoever
it's just
stole
wild.
the wallet, I hope you use that $250 for something good. And if not, then...
And also, lesson learned: never keep cash in your wallet.
Not that much.
It was a unhappy accident. I was going to deposit that cash by the end of the day. I just hadn't gotten to the end of the day yet. So
it was only like 2, so it wasn't the end of the day.
What?
No. Well, you're a victim of true crime, so do you feel connected to what we're about to talk about now? Do you understand how this museum feels about getting something stolen from them?
And it was I think the number's 500 million. So
it's a lot
let me break it down real quick. So this is a 2-part mini series. Usually our true crime episodes are about murders, disappearances, heavy stuff. This is still heavy. It's about it. But we thought for this season we're going to switch it up because there was a new series that Netflix released, and we were like, you know what? That's true crime, but it's a little lighter. And this is a different way of going about it.
No one's like killed that we know of yet.
That we know of.
We've only watched because we watched the first 2 episodes, and then we're going to talk about them, and then we're going to watch the
second next 2, and then talk about them. So we're talking about the Gardner Heist, which is a museum in Boston, which already looks so ratchet. I'm sorry. So what Gabby said, we've watched the first 2 episodes, and that's it. We didn't do any further research, although I really, really wanted to after watching the 2 first episodes. So we're going to discuss how we feel and what our hypotheses are at this point. And we will come back next week after watching the last 2 and then discuss it after doing further research, because I'm sure they're going to leave holes. Okay. If I was directing this thing, there's already a few holes. Like, I'm a little confused. The first episode
they just might not know. It's not intentionally leaving.
Yeah, but the way they go about it, like, I don't know. Well, like, the first episode was great. We watched at like 1 a.m.
This way, first of all, the Netflix series, we never said what it's called.
Oh.
It's called This Is a Robbery.
Oh, LOL. I didn't know. That's not one I don't remember. I think you're right.
I don't remember what the, like, I think that's the subtitle, but I don't remember what
Gardner Heist.
Oh, maybe it's Gardner Heist, the actual... I just know
I love how we...
quote, This Is a Robbery is like the subtitle of the show.
Of the whole series.
And it came out this past summer, and it's like, I don't know. It's 4 episodes. They're each like an hour, so it's not long. But yeah, so it's pretty good. Like you said, the first episode, I was intrigued because this is like the biggest...
Robbery. Yep, that's it.
This is a Robbery?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The world's biggest...
Art heist.
Art heist.
Yeah. So, which I also didn't know. I'm like, I've never heard of this art. Not that I like
which
know about art heists. Which is surprising
because you usually are more in tune with like, this is an older one. Like,
this happened in like 1990. And it's like, not like I know every art heist that's ever happened, but it's kind of wild that the biggest art heist happened in Boston. Like, of all places, I don't know. You have all these huge art museums in Europe because that's where most famous artists came from.
Right.
And then... I don't know, just like some like crappy house turned to a museum in Boston.
Which is true. So here, let's talk about first like the museum and how it's already freaky, especially the lady who made it. We were thinking like girl power. We both have a theory about the lady because I really like how they set up the series and explaining how the museum came to be in Boston. It looks like a crappy area. LOL. I like how it's filmed.
Sorry if you're from Boston, but
I'm sorry. It just doesn't look good. And it's this like the most ragtag collection.
But they have but they have good paintings though.
Yes, but a few. And then they have that Chinese, like, beaker.
I still am confused about that.
I'm confused about that. That's what makes it so, like, freaky deaky.
But they have, like, different rooms. Like, and so, like, the house... So,
it's 2 floors.
Yeah, the house... but it has a basement, though, too.
Yeah, but there's nothing in the basement.
Yeah. But there's a basement.
There's a basement.
But it's 2... We're doing a really good job of explaining all this.
Basement,
but it's 2 floors.
2 floors. And then in the middle, what do you call that? Like, open
like a courtyard? Yeah, like
is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
that's what we're gonna call it.
A courtyard. So basically, it's an open. Like you have 2 floors, and in the middle, it's an open air.
Because it was a house. It was this lady's house first. It wasn't built as a museum. It was built as a house.
I'm all for girl power, but
this lady. Okay, first of all, disclaimer before we go any further.
It's oh no, it's not.
This is how this is everything we're saying right now. This is how we've.
What are you about to say?
Because I just. like this information is hopefully accurate to what is going on in the show, but
there's
like,
nothing that we know outside of the series.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is like if we like say a fact that's not exactly correct, it's probably because we were like half paying attention, kind of. So just go watch the series.
At 1 a.m. I was like crapping my pants.
Yeah, okay.
Barely could go to bed after.
Okay.
Second episode. Not so
anyway,
much.
so if you really want like all the details, you need to watch the series. We're just telling you
from our perspective,
the first 2 episodes. So if we say like, oh, it was $500 million stuff stolen, or $500 million worth of stuff stolen, and it was actually 1.3 billion worth. Okay, well, dude, you know, whatever. So anyway, yes. So the house, this lady,
I don't get her. Again, girl power, yes, but she's a weird character. Okay.
She was like an old timey time. I don't remember when she like moved to Boston, had this house. I don't remember any of the details of like how she came to be there. All I know is that she was like rich or something. She got all these paintings and she put them up in her house. And before she died, she told everybody
in her will
that she didn't want, if the paintings were not going to be in the museum that her house was then going to be, then she didn't want anyone to have.
If anything was changed in this museum, sell all the pieces.
Yeah.
Tear the whole thing down.
Yeah. So they've kept this house with
identical.
all the paintings with
each room,
however many years now, since the old timey time, 18 whatever, so, or 19, I don't know. So yes, so this house or whatever has like Rembrandts. They have I think a few Degas pieces. They had that random Chinese beaker. I don't know, I'm so confused.
And I feel like what was that flag top pole thing?
Oh, I don't know.
It's a little piece, like it's paintings but also like items,
like artifacts and stuff. But like they had like, that's what's so wild is like in Boston, in the middle of Boston, in this like crappy house, they have like
her collection was weird.
Like it's so strange. So
like no continuity. Don't think.
Well, no, but they separated it out into different rooms. They had the like Italian room. Right. They had the whatever. But yeah, it's not like you're going to the American art. It's like freaking all types of stuff.
Boston Gardner Museum.
Yeah, Gardner and something.
So this chick is already weird because when they described her and what she did, like. You obviously as a woman, she had lots of money. I don't think she ever married because she was trying to like control what she'd be doing. And that was her legacy. And that's where we like kick off this whole thing. So they start setting the stage about what happened that night, which was Sunday, March 18th, 1990 at 12:45 a.m. This is when this thing happened. And to quote, this is a good time to commit a crime. The title of the episode was They Look Like Cops.
Oh, wow.
I took some notes because I knew we would be like not remember anything.
I remember that. Okay.
What do you remember?
Here's the thing. I said I didn't know this title episode, but yes, I did, because after I saw that, I remember I went back and said, I was like, remember what I said before we even started? I bet. Because before the title went on the screen, it said like, oh, these 2 guys who were cops came into the museum. And I was like, oh, I bet they're not actually cops. And then the title of the episode was They Look Like Cops.
Which they haven't even like discussed if they, well, I guess they cannot be.
Well, I don't know. Because it said they put the police sketches of the supposed police officers.
Which were apparently very wrong.
Yeah, in the newspaper. But the people who actually saw, like there was a guy and a girl who had walked by the car, the cop car, or it wasn't a cop car, the car that the 2 people dressed as cops were sitting in outside the museum at like 12:45. They walked by and saw them. And so when they saw the sketch, they were like, that doesn't look like them. Like that doesn't look like the people we saw.
So also again, like any case, the police are always...
They were just kind of behind, dude.
Behind, always. But yes, the episode opens with playing out the scene which happened, which are the only witnesses to the people, the 2 men in the car. At 12:45, they were like, I don't know if they were drunk or whatever, like coming home from, because that's the thing. It was the day before St. Patrick's Day, which is they usually celebrate it with a huge parade. So like Boston's already busy. That's why it was a good time to commit a crime, because they were on the other side of town doing a parade. So they see these 2 men, but they go past and they thought, oh, maybe that's a little weird. And they saw the next day that because the museum had been
burglarized. And also they thought it was weird because like it was 2 guys dressed as cops, but they weren't in a cop car. Which usually if you're a plainclothes police officer, you're going to be in a car that's not a cop car. But if you're in uniform, you're going to be usually in a car that you can tell is a cop car, or at least undercover cop car or whatever. But this car was like crappy or something. And so they were like, that's kind of weird. So that's why they remembered, because they were like, it's weird that 2 cops are sitting in a not cop car, clearly not a cop car. But yeah, and then it was this whole thing with you got a little scared.
I got a little scared
because it was, the whole thing with that they found the night guard who was still shifty. I don't trust him. The night guard,
neither of us do.
Was found. the next
In the
day,
basement.
like the next morning,
Hours.
like 8 hours later in the basement, like he was tied up, or his hands were taped behind his back, and then there was tape
Eyes were covered
all around, the
Here's
masking
the thing.
tape.
Yeah. So there was tape over the eyes, which the detective said, you know what, that makes sense. But something he's never seen in his however many years of like detectiving is that there was tape. I don't know how to describe it correctly.
Like all the way over, like all around his head.
All around his head, like over his hair, down under the chin.
Yeah.
Like that circle, which serves
Which
no
is
purpose.
stupid, yeah.
It's stupid. It made no sense.
And his hands were taped behind his back, but not in a way that was like
Convincing.
tight or like, so that's when they were like,
and he's
ooh.
chilling on the, like, sat down in this creepy basement
I'm dead.
with the weird tape. And the photos they take, immediately I start telling Gabby, why isn't this guy more of a suspect? And it goes into that in the second episode. Because in those pictures, if you see them, I think he's smiling. Don't you think he's smiling?
I don't know if he's, I mean, it's hard to
Like
tell
his little
when
smirk.
you're in the middle of taking a picture. It's kind of like mouth could have been open talking. I mean, you don't know.
I don't know. He looks like a little glinty smile.
He didn't
or something.
seem super concerned. I'll say that. But yeah, so he already on our radar on the first episode. I was like, all right, this guy, we think it's an
shifty.
inside job, is what I'm saying. Because then they also go into him later talking about why, which I find really interesting. Like when they go into like the whole like alarm system and stuff.
Right,
Like I
I've
really
never
like
heard
that
about
kind
that.
of stuff about like that's kind of very like forensic in nature when it's talking about like, well, the door was opened at this time, and why was the door opened at this time? It had no reason for
that's
the door
right,
to be
that's
opened at this time, and the alarm went off, and it told us that this was person and this. And then what was weird? Okay, so I'm getting my head.
I know,
myself.
we are. I'm thinking about all the things I'm remembering now.
I know. But like, okay, I'll say the one weird thing. So they were able to determine based off the alarm system, even though it's 1990.
Oh, how long they were
How
in there.
long
Which is
the criminals
wild.
were in the museum. And so they said, what, like 81
81
minutes?
minutes.
Which is obviously over an hour. Like what burglars are going to walk into a museum that has like Rembrandt paintings and Degas and like all this other like really,
And not
really
knowing when the
priceless
police will
crap.
come.
Yeah, because you don't know if they have an alarm system or you don't know anything, supposedly. So like they're going in room to room, and it looked like very carefully picking out what they wanted. They cut paintings out of frames.
That's what's freaky. So the
They
first
took the
episode, I'm thinking
time.
more about the second episode, but they
I
took
know.
the time. Like, first off, let me try to, let's do it in chronological order, because
I'll
that's what the
try.
episode didn't do. So you have this guard, right? And apparently it was a regular thing. He also was a crappy guard. He was like a drug addict, roofie, had a band. He didn't care about this job. He was supposedly going to quit either the next day or the next week. Already shifty. Everything about this guy is shifty. He leaves the door open, which is never
Well, he
supposed to happen.
opens
It's not
the
protocol. He
door.
opened the door
Yeah.
that you can tell from the outside. And apparently this was a regular thing for him to do.
Which they
I
never,
don't remember.
well, I said they never explained, but they haven't explained in the first 2 episodes why he was like, oh, well, this is regular for me to do. I open the door and then close it.
I don't know if
I don't
someone
know
was
what that
gonna
means,
to,
but
to come, like someone was going to go visit him. Apparently there was another guy who would come by. I forget who that
well, I don't
guy
know
was called.
because
but
usually there's 2 night guards. But
Correct.
on
There
this
was
night,
only one.
There was only, well, there was,
he called out.
he called out sick, and there was another guy that came to say in his place. Remember, but he went to the office. He was there, but he was not. He was like in an office, like the back
Right,
office.
not in the same like main room
Yeah.
that when the 2 suspects came. Well,
So the regular
robbers.
night guard that's usually there with this guy who's always opening the door for no reason at all wasn't there.
Right, it was in another part of the building. So he leaves his door open, and the 2 men outside in the car let it be open for like 10 minutes before coming in. Gabby said from the get-go, like, that must be a sign, like, hey, we're clear to go.
Well, yeah,
like
because
an
I mean,
inside
like
job.
that's what I was thinking. Like, he opens the door to let the people, if it was an inside job, to let the people in the car who are dressed as cops know, like, wait 10 minutes, then come in.
Right.
And so like then, because then they went into protocol at the museum and how they're like, the protocol is on night watch. You don't let anybody in for any reason. You never do. But these 2 guys walk up and supposedly, because this is what the night guard said happened, is that they say, hey, we're with Boston police or whatever, let us in. And he buzzed them in and let them come. Because it's like the first door is, I don't remember what they call it, but like, you know how you have a first door that can be open, but then you walk into a holding area kind of, and there's a second door to actually get in.
Right.
So there's two front doors, so to
get
say,
into the actual
to get into
building.
the actual building. And so he buzzed him into the second door, which is not protocol at
At
all.
all.
And I'm like, well, maybe he's just a sucky night guard. I mean,
Right.
like that could be it, like,
Right, or he could have been high, not remember the
or
details,
just not
whatever
care,
it is,
because
not
this
care.
guy, they also explained that like in the second episode that this guy also complained how crappy the security was. And
All
I'm
the
like, but
time.
you are security, so
And
if it's
you are a
crappy,
crappy security
then-
guard.
So that was weird. But so he buzzes him in, and then I think, I don't know,
They're
supposedly
talking.
talk for a while, and then
Right.
finally
The cop,
they
one of
draw-
them say,
oh, you know what, they were there. No, here's the other thing. They were there and they supposedly told the night guard, Rick or Richard, whatever his name is,
Richard
we're here
Abath.
on a warrant.
that's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, if you're here on you're here on a warrant to arrest me in the middle of the night
Right.
at my job?
So they're like, you know what, get up. And they're the only button to contact the police is in where Richard Abath, the security guard, is. And he doesn't press it. He puts his hands behind his back, and that's how that ends.
yeah, and
So
they
they're
tell him this
inside
is a
the museum.
robbery,
Right.
and then they put masking tape over his face, put him in the basement, whatever.
Right.
Which is also weird because I'm like, what's the point of putting masking tape? I don't know if they mentioned this or not, but what's the point of putting masking tape over his eyes? He's already seen you. You talked to him for several
No
minutes.
sense.
Yeah.
Unless they didn't want to see like where
they put
he
him in the
ends up being
basement.
placed, but he knows where he is.
knows where he's at.
He knows, and he's like, I'll see if I end up alive. Also, that's what the cop said. It's so weird that also they didn't kill him because you have an eyewitness. You have an eyewitness.
That's what I'm saying. It would make more sense if they shot him there because he's seen their faces and he's been staring at them for several minutes now.
Right.
Because
So
they
that's
talked about
already
him
weird.
having a warrant and blah, 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 blah.
And they were having a conversation until they said, you know what, you're under arrest, whatever. And then after they have tied him up, they're like, this is robbery.
Yeah.
He goes downstairs into the basement, and here's where it just gets even freakier. So this is a museum robbery, right? You have all these fancy paintings, and the way they go about, apparently it was 12 pieces that are stolen. Some are so expensive, very famous. Priceless. And then some, no one would think twice about. Again, there's like this Chinese beaker that keeps popping up that makes no sense. But when it comes to the paintings, they go through the effort of taking them out of the frames.
Cutting them out.
Which
obviously
or
their
unscrewing what
value
they're in.
decreases when you do that.
Right. Like, it's not, they don't take the whole frame. They go through the effort of like either unscrewing it out of the frame and taking just the paper or canvas out, or they cut out the painting itself. So all that was left was the frame.
Yeah, so all the frames are all over the floor.
just all over the floor. That was already weird because you're like, if someone is trying to get it for the value, that is already decreased
significantly. I mean, here's my theory on that. I can
That they're
see.
dumb.
Well,
They're wasting time, but they don't care.
I have two theories. One theory is that let's say they're stealing these paintings for themselves to then sell somewhere else or something.
On the black market.
Maybe they don't realize that when you cut. I mean, this can sound weird. When you cut a painting out of something, it obviously decreases the value.
But here's the thing: it doesn't matter though. It takes more
but-
time. It takes more time.
Yeah, but okay. But here's the other thing. Imagine it's two of them trying to get 12 paintings out of a museum in heavy gilded frames. That also
they
could
didn't
take more
discuss
time.
that.
So,
Or if they didn't fit, if they're like going to bend up the paper to fit in the car.
right. Or if they're going to like
Roll it up.
You know what I'm thinking of right
yeah,
now?
true. Maybe
You know
I
what I'm
didn't think
thinking
about
of?
that.
I'm thinking of National Treasure.
Yeah,
When they
and
take the
can't roll it
decoration and
because
they're
of-
rolling
yeah.
it up. And so I'm like, well, maybe that's what they were thinking. Because
makes more sense.
taking huge
Because some were
pieces-
big pieces and 12 of
I mean,
them.
and those frames are obviously not like Michael's frames. Mm-hmm. Those are huge. They're heavy. So maybe that's their thought. That's my first theory.
True.
My
I
second
hadn't thought about
theory is that, I mean, yeah, maybe they're just dumb and they just don't realize that it's, yeah, maybe they don't care. Like, and they kind of touched on this in the
A little bit.
second episode about maybe they were working, the people who stole the paintings were working for somebody else.
that they were hired.
That they were
robbers.
hired. So the robbers are like, we don't care. We just have to get these paintings because that's what we were told to do for the money, for whoever they're stealing it for, to get, they want it. I don't know. But like, so
Right.
maybe they're just like, we don't care if the value is decreased by
Our buyer
$5,000.
just
It's
wants
still
the
$1 million.
paintings. It doesn't matter if it's in the frame or not.
So that was my other theory, but I don't know.
Which the reason that started to make more sense, and they discussed that a little bit more, is because each of these pieces, like, there's no continuity. It wasn't the most expensive ones. You could have a very, very expensive painting and then an item that no one would bat an eye about.
Yeah.
Like, it was, what was the
It's
first,
like they
the
didn't
first
realize
painting of
what they were
was it
stealing.
Monet? I forget.
It was like, well, there was
a portrait of
one
super
of the
small
artist, and
of
it
the artist.
was a really small. I don't remember what artist it was, but it was a really small, like I want to say like literally
tiny, like a postcard. I think
like a postcard size photo or painting.
portrait
Yeah, it was a portrait of the artist, but it was one of those that was like
the very first. Yeah,
matted inside a huge frame,
Right.
And they cut it out. I think.
no, I think they unscrewed that.
They unscrewed
They
it.
unscrewed
Oh,
that one.
Well, I don't know
and
about
took
that
just
one.
the paper.
Yeah.
So
Once again, that makes me think like why do we want this huge frame that's going to be really bulky to carry and really obvious? Imagine you're driving down the street looking for these people and they're in the car next to you and all you see is these huge gilded frames in the back seat.
You know what I just remembered, dude?
What?
So when we talked, which was super interesting, there was a museum security guy talking about how the security used to work, and there was a concern as to whether the power circuit shorted out.
Yes, which I had not thought about that, and I thought that's actually a very good theory. Yeah.
Because what happens, the reason you know it's 81 minutes they're in here is that every time they enter a room, there's sensors that usually is printed off on this system.
Like it records.
And they took that paper. But they didn't realize that it's not just on the paper. The actual drive itself kept a record of like what room they entered at what time and how long they were in there and moved on to the next room.
Yeah, so it'll say like
hallway.
It'll say like Italian room, door opened, or someone entered at 12:50 a.m. And then you can see when they leave again because they have to walk through the same door to get to wherever, and it'll say 12:58 they left or whatever.
Right.
And so that's how they were able to gather that, okay, in total they were there for 81 minutes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the criminals also took the paper that was printing out
all this information,
like entered this room at blah, blah, blah time. Mm-hmm. And so obviously they were familiar enough with the museum to know that this is going to be printing out.
And have insider information.
Yeah. And remember, this is 1990. Mm-hmm. So they took the paper, not realizing that the computer, it doesn't matter. It keeps a record of it anyway. It has to print out from somewhere. So obviously it's at a computer in a different room, somewhere else, whatever. Mm-hmm. So they didn't bother taking the computer
or breaking it
or anything.
Which would have.
So that's how they still, so even though they took the paper, they still have the log of how long. So they were there for 81 minutes, which is a really long time.
Unless again, they had insider information or
knowing that cops weren't going to show up until a certain time.
But because of that, there is a room that is, it could be either the system failed, which again, there's huge gaps of time, like 20 minutes that they're in one room. That they only took like one piece, and it would not make sense for them to be that long in a room.
Are they just standing around talking?
They're completely chill. They have no worries. They know these are the 12 pieces we need. Rip them out, tear it out, unscrew it, leave whenever. Like, it makes no sense.
So that's why they did bring up the maybe because once again, it's 1990. Right. So your alarm system, even though it's a museum with expensive and priceless items, it's only going to be so good because it's 1990. So like they were like, well, we've had in the past where power surges happen. Right. It's kind of unreliable. Something could fail. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they're in one room for 20 minutes, and that could be true. Or it could be that the system failed and they were actually in and out in the course of 2 minutes or something.
Other than that, that's why I'm like, if it was working on most other sections, I think the majority of people think it's just that they were completely unconcerned. They knew how much time they had. They had no worries. But the thing about this that's so interesting is that there is a room that was not entered, like ever, but a painting stolen from it. And
that's what makes me think it failed. The system failed at some point.
Oh, you think? Because what they were saying is that possibly Richard Abath, the security guard, could have gone in before then, because he did enter that room before he sat down at the desk and the whole robbery happened. Right. So before, and he could have taken that painting.
So before the robbers ever showed up at 12:45 or something like that, Richard went into that room because it's logged on the sheet that he went into that room before 12:45, before the two burglars showed up. Yes. And he entered and he left. So the robbers never entered that room. So yes, what you're saying, like, so they think either that the system failed and it wasn't recorded that the robbers entered that room, or Richard went into that room before the burglars showed up, got the painting himself,
and that was like the price of his information, or gave it to them,
or whatever. So
because even if it wasn't Richard, everyone agrees they must have had inside information.
Yeah, apparently
a bigger conversation happening in this documentary is that what was becoming popular then is that because of Miles Connor, this guy is part of this documentary.
He's like cracking me up though, dude. He doesn't care about anything.
I mean,
he's like,
it's not funny. We just find it funny because we're like dumb. But he's the most well-renowned art robber. And he will say this. He's robbed tons of museums. Yeah. And the only reason his name wasn't part of the suspects is because he was in jail for a robbery.
At the time.
He's like, I wish I could have done it.
They also talked about like maybe he hired somebody to do it. But he's like, but what would that have benefited me? Like I was in prison at the time. But yeah, he came on this documentary and he's like, he said he was like, I've stolen a lot of art, but I didn't do this one.
Yeah. Like, he's like, I'm okay with admitting to all this. Yeah. And he was in jail at the time. Yeah. But through that conversation, they're saying because of him, he was able to lessen his jail time by offering a very, very expensive piece of art. Yeah. And so they were, dude, it's like that one scene of an Italian mafia man being like, how are you? Good.
As he's walking out in handcuffs. Good. Yeah, so they also looked at the mafia.
like, on
to
the
see,
side, but
just to see if that
apparently
was a
since
thing,
that was
but-
such a big crime, now and then having to deal with all these like gangs in Boston and mafia, and the money and recognition for the DEA and the police department was more in that, and the museum heist kind of fell off the deep end because no one cared about it. No one would get like any promotion or money off working off this case, and no one knew how to deal with a museum heist. But what did the lady say? She's like, yeah, the DA didn't have a museum robbery department. They just didn't have.
Or she said the FBI.
The
She's like
FBI.
she's like the FBI, because the FBI took over the case.
Yeah.
She's like the FBI didn't have a like art heist
department.
And I was like,
They're like,
lady,
no,
were you
sis.
expecting the FBI to have an art heist department? I mean, maybe they do now. I don't know, but I
Possibly.
doubt it.
So it basically, because of all these reasons, no one really looked into it as much. And actually, the one person I feel bad for in this whole thing is the director of the museum, which she looked like a really nice lady, and you can see her in the documentary too. Her name's Anne Hawley, and she was the director.
Bewildered, dude. She was beside herself. I feel bad because, like, imagine she was only director for a few months
6 months
before this heist happened, and so they have like in the documentary like footage from like the first like press conference when she comes out the museum to say everything.
She looks
like we were
she
robbed.
looks so dead
She
inside.
was like, and of course, the whole press is asking her questions like, what about this? What about this? Blah blah blah. And she's
Did
like,
you have insurance? And her answer, we had insurance for everything but robbery or theft.
made me kind of crack up because I'm like, you work. What that made me crack up when she was like, we have insurance for everything,
like weather, fire.
yeah, for everything except theft. We don't have insurance for that. And then she said, she was like, when I first came on to be a director, no one warned me this would happen. And I was like, first of all, how is anyone supposed to warn you that this might happen? Because it's a robbery.
Yeah.
And two, you should kind of assume that's a risk because you work with priceless pieces every day. So
It was not like
but she
in
was
her
she
mind
was
at
like,
all. At
what?
all,
A
at all, at
robbery?
all. So,
No.
dude, I'm screaming.
Like, she
and
was-
again, at this time, they're mentioning how a lot of criminals are interested in this because they think it's a get out of jail free card. And that's when they mentioned, I had to go back because I was like, I missed the name, but the Bangs Hallett House in Yardley, which is like an hour or two away from the Gardner Museum. And there was a similar theft that happened. And they think maybe the person who robbed that museum did this one, but it didn't end up connecting.
Yeah.
All these things, and then in the second episode, which is called, let me see my notes.
Vipers in the
Oh, Vipers in the Grass.
Grass.
Ah, yeah.
I said Grace.
Grace, Vipers in the Grass. They take a deeper look at this Richard E. Abath character, which I still think had something to do with this, even if it's
Somebody had
negligence. I don't know how they didn't get him on negligence.
Well, I mean, but I guess, I mean, you don't know. I mean, I mean, I don't know how you charge someone just for letting two people in. That's not illegal. It's against the museum's protocol, but it's not illegal. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's negligent. And so this cop that actually I think is the best one speaking into this case.
Oh, he was
I
the
forget his
FBI.
name.
He was the FBI
agent who's like
guy,
looked
I
into
think.
this quite a bit afterwards and like tried to figure more information out.
Or maybe the DA. I don't know. But yes, he was good.
And he meets with him like 20 years later
Yep.
with Richard. And for 4 hours records his interview with him, asking him questions. And the way Richard responds like is just so frustrating because he's just like, oh, I don't know how that happened. Yeah, that's wild.
That's
I don't
wild.
know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I got
Yeah.
taped up. Like, there's no information based off this case. And so the guy's like, just like 20 years ago, there's no more information we can get to actually warrant an arrest.
And there was no cameras.
No cam.
So that's just one of those things. I don't know.
That's just one of those things.
It's just one of those things.
We don't know what part he played. We don't know where
Or
all
if it was
these-
somebody else. Maybe it was a combination. Maybe.
Well, they did say that maybe there was another insider.
Doodle-doodle-doodle-doo.
Oh, you gonna figure it out for me now?
No, I had another thought. Maybe it was one of those things that Richard whatever's face, the night guard the night that this happened,
Mm-hmm.
is actually really not involved. But somebody else in the museum
Knows he's dumb.
is involved and is like, you know what, if you're gonna rob, go on this guy's
night.
shift because he'll probably let you in because he's a really sucky night guard. And so he just kind of got caught in the crossfires. And so yeah, was he negligent? Yes. But was he involved? Maybe not. Maybe it was just his negligence that allowed it to happen, and other workers who worked at the museum knew that because he was like a really crappy night guard. So that's another thought. I don't know. But like, yeah, I don't know. Also, is he smart enough to pull this
drag
off
him.
too?
Right.
Well, you know,
no,
because,
no,
you know,
no.
like,
But I don't think those policemen are smart either.
well, no.
Like, even if, again,
What, the guys,
The-
the,
the most-
robbers
I
or the
think-
actual police? Or both?
everyone involved is so dumb because whether they were hired to get these paintings, unless there's some guy who had enough information and be like, I want these 12 pieces. I don't care how you get them, but they fit perfectly in my collection. Do whatever you want. Get it to me. Easy job.
Maybe that's what took them so long to go through the museum, is because they were looking for these very specific
but
pieces.
But they must have known where they were.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That maybe it makes more sense for them to be hired by by somebody else who said, I want these
Dude,
pieces.
Gabby was cracking up. She's like, how are, because all the news reporters were like, how are you going to sell these like hot topic pieces now on the market? And Gabby's like, do they not know the black market exists?
Well, yeah, because they were all like, well, it should be, when it first got robbed, they were like, it should be pretty simple to find, because you're going to walk into someone's house and see a Rembrandt hanging there that obviously does not belong to them. And I was like, first of all, if you're going to steal 12 pieces that are priceless or worth billions of dollars, I'm not going to hang it in my living room. I'm gonna sell it. Like, what do I? Or
well, sometimes, but
I'm
they said it must have been someone, since, because if it was based solely on value, it makes no sense what they took and how they took it.
Or you're gonna give it to somebody who just, like a mob boss or somebody who really wants that Rembrandt and that really awkward Chinese beaker, and they're gonna go put it in their house in podunk nowhere where no one is gonna suspect that they have that. It's not like someone in Boston is going to be hanging up a painting.
Screaming. They really be thinking that.
They were like, well, everyone's so dumb
in this.
And I'm like, well, dude, no one's going to be hanging up a Rembrandt in like crappy Boston. Like
I'm sorry, this museum looks trashy. Like all the photos you see from like, you keep saying that. I still think it looks so.
Well, it's an old house.
Crappy.
Well, I don't know.
Spooky. You'll never catch me at that museum.
Well,
actually, I wonder how it's doing today.
You're
maybe
just
it's closed.
scared of it.
I'm not scared.
I bet you're going to get tons of business after this documentary.
Yeah, maybe Anne will be like, you know what, please make it work for me.
People will probably be flocking there to be like, oh, let's
what
see.
happened? True. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't.
People are going to be coming in not for the art, but to be like, show me your security system.
Hopefully it's upgraded.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, once again, I don't know if if they were more involved, there would have been a different outcome, because you know what's also...
What?
You know what I just remembered?
No.
Dude, I don't know if they had like DNA and stuff back then. But
well, it was in its infancy,
but the tape.
Yeah, the tape. Dude. Yep, the tape. That pissed me off too.
I was just like, yo. Then I thought, are the police in on this?
That's something. Sometimes you will have a dirty cop that is working for somebody else because they're blackmailing him for blah blah blah. But I will say, okay, so they lost the tape. The tape that was around Richard, what's his face's?
That could have had DNA.
Face and mouth and hands. They all lost all that tape. And they also...
The crime scene's just botched
already. In fairness...
The frames...
The way... one of the officers or the deputies or somebody...
they did say.
Explained, they were like, back in 1990, we didn't process crime scenes like we do today because we didn't have the technology. Why would we process a crime scene so carefully when we don't test for DNA? That doesn't make sense. Why would we do that? Now, when you process a crime scene, you make note of everybody who's entered the crime scene. You don't touch anything. And if you're going to touch something, it's after photographs are taken. Mm-hmm. You collect literally even stuff that you're like, I don't think that has anything to do with what we're doing right now, but I'm going to take it just in case. And you bag everything into evidence and you make a log of what's in evidence and everything has a number.
So that 10 years later, this person can look at it and be like, you know what, with this information now, we can do X, Y, and Z with it.
But they didn't do that in 1990 because they weren't testing for DNA on most things. So this tape that they were like, a few years later, they were like, oh, now we're testing for DNA. Let's get the masking tape and see if there's fingerprints on it. Let's get the tape.
It's completely lost.
And also what you can do with masking tape is, I don't know if they said there's not, but like where it's ripped, you can match to a roll.
Oh, so if they where it was bought.
And where it was bought and all this stuff. So they were like, let's do all of that.
Yeah.
So they go to evidence and it's not there.
Evidence is like, no.
No tape. No masking tape.
No nothing from the scene that would have helped, because either they touched it beforehand or like it's just completely lost. So it's just like there's no part of this. And then, for example, we mentioned earlier, but the eyewitnesses, when the little portraits came out, they're like, yeah, these people didn't look anything like that. That's kind of funny, huh?
They were like, yeah, the police sketches don't look like the people we saw sitting in the car dressed as cops. And I was like, well, I don't know who they talked to get those sketches.
It was Richard.
Oh, Richard.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they didn't put together two eyewitnesses.
They even said they were like the two eyewitnesses, the guy and the girl.
Dude, the notes were so shoddy. They were on their interviews.
Yes, they were like, well, we told the police that we came forward and we were like, oh my god, like we walked by this car, we saw these people, and no one ever called them back. They were like, no one called us for more detail. No one called us to go over our story again. No one called us. So
they weren't involved at all.
It wasn't followed up with them, and so yeah. The only person I think they talked to was Richard. about.
And even there was a guy who did like specialize in museum security, and he asked to be involved to help in whatever way he can, and they didn't let him.
They were like, nah.
There was that log of that the drive had on like what times, what rooms were accessed. He's like, I wish I would have seen this X amount of years ago, because you could get so much from this, so much more than they did.
Yeah, because he was looking at it during the interview for the first time, and he was looking at it, and he was like, I really wish I would have had this, 30 years ago. That would have been great. But he didn't. Crazy. They didn't let him. And he said, he was like, well, you know how the FBI is, they don't let you see certain things for whatever reason.
Then,
but
what's wild is that 30 years later, they released the video of the two.
Oh yes, that's very true. And they're like, so they did have the video. Yeah. I mean, there's no correct step that was taken, which is wild. So now again, I think there's obviously no one has figured it out. So I'm curious what the last two episodes will be like, but I don't know. But those are the first two, and we were like kind of shook.
I still think, I don't know, that night guard like pissed me off just because he's there.
Yeah.
And the way they, like I said, it just doesn't make sense. Even the most likely thing, I think, which is that someone had a really peculiar art
fetish
thing. Oh, you know what else we said?
What?
I think this most likely one. That the ghost of the lady who likes to like make out with her paintings.
I'm dead. I didn't mean her ghost. I meant her when she was alive.
That's what I'm saying. That.
Oh, yeah.
But the ghost still, that she took them.
Well, because she was like, when she was just like really like about her paintings, like really into them. And so I was,
she wasn't. Like,
we were watching this on Netflix watch party. And so in a little message thing on the side, I messaged, I was like, oh dude, this lady like definitely has a thing for her painting. She's probably like,
yeah, no man, just the paintings. Yeah. I still believe that. She's freaky deaky, dude.
She's a freaky deaky chick.
Like so, it makes no.
That's actually the most important theory. Was she or was she not banging the paintings?
Doesn't matter. Robbery afterwards, no one cares. Her ghost was like seeing them get harassed, and she was like, you know what, take them.
I think. Okay, so that's our actual theory.
I just wanted to put that in there because it just makes no sense. It's not for the value. I refuse to believe it's for the value. It's for someone who had a very, very specific art taste, and one of the 12
Okay, but
pieces,
it's so random.
That's what I'm saying. It makes no sense. It's not for the value.
Well, no, what I mean, if it was an art taste,
paid.
I would say, give me all the Rembrandts, but that's not what happened.
They had
a Chinese beaker and a Rembrandt.
Peculiar art taste. Oh, okay. And in their basement, locked up somewhere, nowhere near Boston, he has the paintings.
You know what I think
and
this is?
And he hired the freakiest two dudes who didn't know what was going on, had a little bit of inside information. That's the only thing that makes sense.
I think I have
Someone
a theory.
Tell me different. What's your theory?
Tell you different. I think what this was, here's the thing. I don't know the nearest college to where this happened, but I think it was a hazing thing. I think a fraternity was like, if you want to be part of our frat, you need to go steal from the museum. And it was a hazing thing. That's what I think happened. So some like 20-year-old
You know what's so funny is that it was by a college area.
Was it? I wasn't paying attention to that.
Richard was a college student.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Okay. Why did I think he was older than college age?
No, at the moment he had like, he was dropping out. He was a bad student. He had some sort of band. And it's by a college area.
Yeah, he's a metalhead, dude.
A metalhead.
He was a metalhead. But
you know what? At this point, it's either someone with a weird art taste or
frat brothers.
But here's the thing: the detective said like these people knew what they were doing. They didn't care. They were like chatting for 20 minutes in one room,
supposedly
with no rush, supposedly. But they didn't. They knew just enough.
That's all you need to know.
And in the 90s, that could happen.
Well, I guess 90s were a wild time, huh? I don't know.
I'm still so upset. And I also have no idea what more they could possibly offer in the next two episodes that could like twist it anymore.
I don't know. There's probably, dude, something outlandish. They're going to say something outlandish about something else that happened.
About her ghost. Latest ghost.
Yep. That's what I mean. So, I don't know. We'll have to watch the next two
episodes.
There's
no other characters. There's no other
characters. You don't know
to
that. What do you think they're going to do for the next two episodes? That's 2 hours. Just go over the same details. They're going to, something's going to happen. Someone's going to pop up who's going to be possibly a key to not solving this, because I don't think it was ever solved, but a key to possibly maybe what might have happened. I think there's a few more actors that got to be coming in.
Well, I don't know, because the thing is those paintings, unless again they're going to say this painting was seen or offered in exchange for jail time. I don't think that's the case, because that would obviously lead to it being solved, and this is unsolved.
I don't know. We got to listen. Like,
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't used for money. It wasn't, unless it, yeah. You don't know. No. You don't know. No. It wasn't used for money. It wasn't used to bail someone out of jail time. It's either,
I think it's
some amazing college kids.
It's hanging in a frat house right now. The Rembrandt is hanging in a frat house.
Or someone has some really weird art taste and didn't mind destroying the paintings that they so obviously wanted the 12 specific ones.
It's probably in like some mob boss's house in like the middle of like freaking Singapore or something.
halfway across the world.
Halfway across the world. And Singapore doesn't
Destroyed.
care. So,
like been rolled up, tossed in the car.
you just, you just flat iron it
Also
out.
got some grease on it from these two guys.
It's the mob
also
boss
these
who was
older
like,
guys.
who
Like
was
also
like,
it's not these young kids.
well, no.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
If they were college kids, then I'm like, oh yeah, your theory holds water. No, they hired these two old. Like I got excited for half a second and then I like blew right past it. Destroyed, dude. My theory still stands.
Oh, my theories I think are pretty good. So, hey, I was the first one to be like, that's an inside job, and you were like, what? And then like 30 minutes later, you were like, oh, it's an inside job. So don't even
I
with
was a
that.
little late, but also the thing is when we're like Netflix watch partying it up at like 1 a.m., I'm just like trying to keep it together.
The second episode we watched at 3:30 in the afternoon, so that you
made that decision. Yeah. But the second episode wasn't as creepy. We'll see where the last two land. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna watch the last two. We're gonna do some extra research because I know these people aren't gonna give me what I want.
I love that you just volunteered my time to do more research.
Yes, we're gonna do that because we need to make sure we
I know what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
I do know what I'm talking
and we'll
about.
discuss it when we get back.
Yeah. Next episode.
Because even if my wallet case can't,
be solved,
we're gonna solve this. And like always, the camera just dies at the end. That's because we talk too much. So you know what? I want you to let us.
We talked too much about the lady possibly having sex with her paintings.
No. I mean, it's not possibly. It's
shit.
what
Okay,
happened.
so that's not a theory. That's what happened. That's a fact.
We decided that, so we can add that to
What's
the case.
the lady's
Contact
name?
the detective, dude. I do not remember.
Gardner something.
Oh, I guess yes.
Because it's the Gardner Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever her name is. So that's the fact. We're gonna write into this Netflix show and tell them like you need to add a disclaimer at the end.
Fifth episode. Let's talk about this.
Fact.
We'll come in. We'll do it for you. We'll talk about it for you.
Yeah. All right.
So let us know your theories.
Yeah.
Watch the first two episodes. Join us. And then I would say maybe watch the second two and we can have a discussion next week about what's happening and where we're at. We'll have it solved. So if you want to know what happened, just tune in next week.
Yeah, because we'll have it solved. That's like anytime I watch Unsolved Mysteries,
I
know what happened, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it because I don't feel like it.
But here, we'll tell you. We'll tell you what happened.
We'll tell you what happened though next week.
We'll offer up that information.
Yep.
And I think this is pretty different for our true crime, but this was fun.
Oh, also,
what?
hopefully you listen to this episode after watching. If not, there's some spoilers. So is it like 50 minutes too late? Spoilers. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody.
Well, no. I think it's okay. Yeah, spoiled. Or like I said, you can watch the episodes now and be like, wow, they don't know anything that happened.
Yeah, okay, maybe you listen to our podcast episode first and then go watch the first two episodes and be like, is this the same show?
No, this could be the best promo. I'm screaming. Is this the same show? No, this could be a promo. We should like collab with Netflix. Be like, we will promo.
I think Netflix would love that.
I think that's how you should do it. That's how you should
send us your the next true crime show you're gonna release, but before you release it, let us do a promo. So I think that's what we should be doing.
They should do that. This is so funny to me. So yes, hear this, watch the first two. Actually, watch the whole thing, and then we'll discuss when we get back.
Yep. Next two episodes. In the meantime, you can, follow us and stuff on Instagram at _change by degrees and sign up for our emails because I'll definitely be sending those out. And
we'll have our stuff together.
By the time this comes out, we'll have our stuff together. I know it because I believe in us.
I believe
as much as I believe that lady had a thing for paintings.
That's
a strong belief.
That's out of all the crap we say on the regular, that's the highest percentage. Is that?
So you should feel really confident in that.
Is that and we never say this, but I'll try to make a habit of saying this. That to go on iTunes and leave us a rating because we got really good ratings. Except Jack's giving us 4 stars, so thank you.
Jax was like, it was all right.
But I'm screaming because I know to listen to this and be like, what?
Just want to be like, I didn't mean to.
No, I know.
But yeah, so go rate, review, all that stuff,
and comment. You can even comment that it's bad. You can give a rating of 1 star. Please do.
Let us. We want to know.
We want to know your true opinion, and we will see you next week. And hopefully, I lose nothing else. Because I swear, if I open the episode losing my wallet for a second time, I believe it right now that can happen, but I really don't want it to.
I'm not going to
send me all the good vibes.
I'm not going to.
And if you're the thief listening to this, it's okay. You know what? You gave me the intro, so I guess that's what worth it.
God will forgive you, but we will not. I'm just kidding. Okay, everybody, that's it. That's all we got. Bye.
Okay, bye.